If you want to get a really killer paint finish, as most people will tell you, it all starts with the preparation. A good primer is a key product in that process, protecting your substrate and preparing your surface quickly for the top coat paint application. The Epifanes Polyurethane Primer is great for producing a super smooth finish for the top coat that will follow, and in this video we're going to take a look through the basics that you'll need to know in order to apply it. So the Epifanes Polyurethane Primer is a two-part product that requires the mixing of two components. This makes for very predictable drying times in a range of conditions. It also allows for more versatile overcoating procedures that reduce the need for sanding in between coats. When it comes to sanding, this primer sands incredibly easily and to a very smooth surface. Its fine filling capability also makes it brilliant for filling fine scratches or pinholes in the surface below. This can be used as a standalone primer over the top of a fiberglass surface. It can also be applied over an existing two-part paint system in preparation for a new maintenance coat, and it can be used as an undercoat over the top of an epoxy primer before the top coat is applied. It has great coverage, which helps in concealing patchy surfaces to give an even base. Standard colours are available in grey and white. However, this can also be mixed to any standard RAL colour, and this is a great solution when it comes to colour systems that are notoriously bad at covering marks. Yellow is an example of one of those. Having a primer or undercoat mixed to the same colour as your top coat will help you out here. The primer is compatible with both single and two-part top coat paints, giving a broad range of options for final finishing. Application can be done by brush, roller or spray, so let's take a look at how to apply it. If you are applying over an existing paint system, a fiberglass hull or an epoxy primer system, sand to 180 grit. If you are applying over an epoxy resin, then sand a little more coarsely to 120 grit. Once you've sanded the surface, vacuum off any dust and degrease the surface. This can be done with the Epifanes Polyurethane Spray Thinner, denatured alcohol or methylated spirits. Once the surface is abraded and cleaned, you can begin with application. As I mentioned, this is a two-part product, so we first need to mix these two components. These can be measured out by weight or volume, so you'll need either a set of scales or a graduated mixing cup for this. Primers such as this one can have a lot of sediment that sits in the bottom of the tin, especially with component A. Stir this thoroughly with a rigid mixing stick to ensure it is evenly blended first. Make sure that there is no thick sediment left at the bottom of the tin and check this using your mixing stick. For this primer, the mix ratio in both weight and volume is 4 parts component A to 1 part component B. We'll measure out by weight first. If numbers aren't working out nice and round, this can get a little confusing, so here is my recommendation for working this out quickly. You'll need a calculator for this one. Decant an amount of component A and divide this weight by 4 to give you the weight of component B that's needed. Add the weight of component A back on again, and this will give you the amount for the two combined. Then add component B into the mix up to this final weight. To save the need for rewinding the video, let's go over that again. Measure out the weight of component A, divide that by 4, then add it back on again. Add component B up until you reach this figure. To measure it by volume, you'll need a graduated mixing cup. On the cup, find the scale that references the 4:1 ratio. Add component A up to the first line on the cup and then component B up to the second line. Mix the two components together thoroughly until fully blended. Now you have an induction time with this product, meaning that it wants to sit for a while to allow the reaction to begin between the two components. Once mixed, leave the product in the cup for around 10 to 15 minutes at 20 degrees C or 68 F before commencing application. Thin the primer at anything from 0 to 10% for all coats. I would typically thin the first coat and then apply the remaining coats unthinned. If applying by brush or roller, then use the Epifanes Polyurethane Brush Thinner. Providing your surface allows for it, application is best done by roller. My personal preference are these Anza felt rollers, which give a great finish and hold up well against two-part paint systems. Roll out the primer in opposing directions to ensure an even film coverage. There is no need to tip the surface following on from this, and try to work the surface as little as possible. This primer can also be applied by spray, and recommended settings are a 1.5 to 2 mm nozzle, Spray at a pressure of 3 to 4 bar or 45 to 60 psi and thin the primer at 10 to 15% using the Epifanes Polyurethane Spray Thinner. Apply coats in the same way as you would with a brush and roller, waiting for each coat to sufficiently dry. Wet on wet application should be avoided. Additional coats can now be applied, and with this primer you can apply consecutive coats without the need for sanding in between. Before applying these, you should wait a minimum of 12 hours at 10 degrees C or 50 F, 8 hours at 15 degrees C or 59 F, 6 hours at 20 degrees C or 68 F, and 5 hours at 25 degrees C or 77 F. Should you need to sand in between coats to knock back some high spots and keep your surface nice and flat, sand no finer than 220 grit. Vacuum the surface and degrease again before proceeding with application. Sandable drying times will be 24 hours at 10 degrees C or 50 F, 15 hours at 15 degrees C or 59 F, 12 hours at 20 degrees C or 68 F, and 10 hours at 25 degrees C or 77 F. As I'm sanding the primer here, note some of the finer details highlighted that have been filled when using this as an undercoat over an epoxy primer. Fine pinholes, surface texture and scratch marks from previous sanding are clearly highlighted. Sand your final coat to 220 grit, then vacuum and degrease the surface. Once sanded, here you can see the incredibly smooth surface that you are left with, a perfect substrate to deliver a killer top coat finish. The Epifanes Polyurethane Primer is compatible with any of the top coat paints from their range, including all of their single and two-part paints. Take a look at some of my other quick video guides in which I cover the method for applying some of these products. So there we go, a quick and predictable drying standalone two-part primer or undercoat that sands to a super smooth finish. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them or put them to the technical team at Epifanes if I'm not able. If you'd like to learn more about the boat painting process as a whole, then take a look at my online painting course, which you can find linked in the description below this video. Cheers guys, I'll catch you in the next one.